is a place.
No, no, no. Home is a feeling.
Home is my motherland.
It's more where you feel alive and inspired.
Well, I think we're talking about the same thing, aren't we? Home is where our story begins.
What's your story?
Homesick at Home every Friday from 9 to 10 p.m.
On Radio Van 103.1 with Ina MK
and Rina D.
Shot City. I'm coming home again.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, hello. And tonight we are kind of nervous. We have a very special guest. And this is Homesick at Home, our evening Friday night English-speaking show with lovely Rina D and
Ina. How are you?
There's always a pause. There's always a pause there. I'm fine. Drinking a little bit of wine.
I can't do that. I have the flu.
No, I'm not jealous at all. And our guest tonight is ready? Ambassador of Switzerland to the Republic of Armenia, Mr. Lukas Gasser. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for the invitation. It's
and
great
thanks
to be
for
here.
coming.
Thank you for accepting.
So how do you feel? Comfortable?
Very
Everything
fine,
good?
yes, after a 10 days working day, but that's pretty much the norm here in Armenia, but it's always stimulating, so I feel wonderful.
And how do you feel here in our studio?
Oh, very good, very good, very good.
Great. And I have a question. How should we address you? Mr. Ambassador?
No, Lukas.
Mr. Gasser? Oh,
Lukas,
just
that's
Lucas.
it.
Oh, nice.
We were wondering about that.
Okay, Mr. Lucas, could you tell us where were you born and raised? First
I was
of all?
born in Switzerland, in a town called Bienne.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bilingual city, and it's the heart of the Swiss watchmaking industry. And I was born there by chance because I'm not from there. I'm from central Switzerland, from Lucerne. But my parents met in that very place, in that surrounding. And so I was the first child. But after my birth, they decided to go back to central Switzerland.
So you were actually raised in?
In Lucerne. Yeah.
Okay.
Lucerne, it's a beautiful city in central Switzerland, surrounded by mountains and with a wonderful lake.
That's beautiful. And, we know that you have visited and worked and lived in many countries. Could you
Right.
name some of the countries that you've been to?
Well, I've I've started as a student. I did a 1 year abroad. That was compulsory for us, and I went to Poland, to Warsaw University during communism. So that was my first real experience. But I must also say that we have traveled a lot to Italy because my mother is Italian, and we had our family there, and so I was regularly visiting as a child already Italy. And then I had my first posting as a diplomat in Canada, and then back to Switzerland, and after that I'm abroad now since 18 years. So I've been in Venezuela, in Poland again, in Thailand, and now here in Armenia.
Wow.
18
This was a big
years
geography.
Abroad. Wow. Yeah. I mean, but comparing countries, how different is Armenia to the other places that you have worked and lived in?
Well, every country is different, of course, but for me, Armenia is different in so far that this is, let's say, one of the countries where I really feel very much at home and where I would like to come back after
That's
having
nice.
left. I must say I'm a person, I'm always looking forward, I'm always looking towards the future. And not many times I have gone back to countries like Canada or Thailand or Venezuela. I've never been back to those three countries. But I think Armenia, yes, I would. It will not be a country that I easily forget. And it will surely be a country that I miss.
And
Maybe
I'm
we can
pretty
talk
sure
afterwards a
that's
little bit more
beautiful.
why exactly. I think this is all about.
I think pretty sure that Armenia won't forget you as well.
Oh, thank you. Hopefully.
So how did it happen with Armenia? Did you choose Armenia or did Armenia
Yes.
choose you?
Yes, very much so. I must say that already 20 years ago, when I came back from Canada, I got 2 assignments at my ministry at the headquarters in Bern. The first was I became a member of the Minsk group. Imagine, it was at the time it was a more open format, so all the 11 countries plus 2 Troika countries were also members at the table of the Minsk group, and I had the honor and the pleasure to represent Switzerland in the delegation of Switzerland to the Minsk group, and I was also dealing with Armenia, with Azerbaijan, with Georgia, with this region here. And then I had a second assignment where I was dealing with all the CIS countries, the 12 countries of the former Soviet Union without the Baltic states. And of course, Armenia was also one of them. So I have followed Armenian affairs since quite a long time already.
Wow. Yeah.
And sorry, the question was about why I did
how
I
did
choose
it
Armenia?
happen?
Of course, so I always wanted to come back to the Caucasus, and we had an embassy in Georgia only for a long time, and then very quickly embassies in Baku and in Yerevan were opened, and I was in Thailand at the time, and I said, oh, that would be a wonderful opportunity. Let's see. And when I had to leave Thailand, this opening was there for Yerevan, and I said immediately, yes, that's where I want to go.
So you were the first ambassador?
No, I was the second.
The second.
Yes.
Mr. Gasser, you mentioned that Armenia became like home to you. Before we go on advertisement break, can we speak a little about what is home to you?
Home for me, of course, most of all, it's Switzerland. But you have seen that I have grown up in a bilingual household. My mother is Italian, and I felt always very close to Italy as well. And then came Poland, so I didn't exclusively think of Switzerland as my home country. And now, Switzerland for me is more the country that I once want to go back, but that's most probably after retiring from the diplomatic career. And home is where I feel well, where I have friends, where I have people, where I have everyday things that stimulate me and that I like to dig a little bit deeper into. And that's why Armenia is since 5 years almost a country where me and my family feel very much at home.
Did your family and your children adapt easily?
Yes, I must say we have 3 children. 2 of them are not with us because they are already studying at university in Switzerland. But our youngest daughter, she's 14, and she's very much also feeling very, very good here. And next summer we have to leave Armenia for another country, and she's a little bit sad about that because she would like to finish her school here in Yerevan.
Let her stay here. We'll take good care of her. Okay, dear listeners of Radio Van, this is Homesick at Home, our English-speaking show, and you can join us and watch us live right now on Radio Van FM 103.1 Facebook page, Radio Van official Facebook page, and also our website, which is www.radiovan.fm. Stay tuned. Our guest is Mr. Lukas Gasser, Ambassador of Switzerland to the Republic of Armenia. Rena, make yourself at home.
But Ina, Yerevan is already my home.
But I mean Radio Van.
You mean a home within a home?
Homesick at Home on Radio Van 103.1. Join us every Friday. Homesick at Home. Yes, we're home tonight at Radio Van, and we're hosting at our house our lovely guest, Mr. Gasser. How are you doing so far?
I'm doing great. Thank
Great, great. So we have a bunch of questions for you prepared, and one of them would be, how did you earn your first salary? Let's go back.
Oh, what a great question. I was 14 years old, and in Switzerland, it's quite usual that school children use their vacation to earn money. And I applied for a job for 2 weeks in a warehouse of a company that used to produce many things like apple juice concentrate, but also strong alcohol and mostly agricultural goods. Also food for cattle, for animals, and so on. And it was a nice job. I had promised 5 francs per hour. And when I checked out after 2 weeks, the guy told me, well, you know, well, we've heard good things. You can have 7 francs per hour.
Oh, wow.
So, and that's how we financed
had a
our
promotion.
vacation and so on. Yes, a promotion after leaving the company. Yes. So that was my first salary.
Oh, that's nice. So going back, any childhood memories that were special for you? Something interesting you could share with us?
Oh, I mean, there are so many childhood memories. I mean, I was lucky enough to grow up in a very safe environment with many opportunities to play with kids outside. We had a lot of forests around and lakes. So, and also we had a kind of a Boy Scout organization. It was called differently and was linked with the Catholic Church. And I remember that we had one game in the mountains. We were for 2 weeks in the mountains, many kids together.
Camp.
And a camp, yes. And of course there were games and so on, and we had to form groups and we had to find names for ourselves. And that was a time where Asala, Armenian organization, was doing kind of nasty things in our countries and in others. And we called ourselves the Armenian Rockers.
Wow.
Because we were kind of... I was maybe 13 years old at the time. So,
13?
Yeah.
Okay,
One of
so
many
Armenia.
childhood memories that... probably my first childhood memory that relates to Armenia.
Armenia.
So Armenia has been following you since you were 13.
It's always been in the mind.
Must be.
Being a diplomat and a family man, how do you combine?
I'm very lucky to have a wife, Marilou, who is very supportive of me, who likes also this moving from one country to the other.
I've met her, by the way.
Yes,
Hello.
she's
Can I say hello to her now? Is
she's
she
also-
listening?
She's in Thailand right now.
Oh.
She's doing some vacation after having worked a lot, also for my profession, because she's a very good cook, a wonderful cook, and she always prepares the dishes and for receptions and for buffets and dinners that we have at home, because that's one important part of our activity.
Of
to
course.
invite a lot. So she likes that, and she would have, of course, liked also to continue a real profession, but that's very difficult in our career. She would like to have a catering business, for example, but if we start investing and it goes well, then we have already to leave for another country.
Yeah.
So that's difficult. But that's, and also our kids, I mean, they have picked up several languages here and there. They have, sometimes they have complained, of course, because most difficult thing is leaving school at a certain age. I mean, you have all your friends, you have maybe your first love and in class, and you know that after the summer break you will be somewhere else. So that's pretty hard, but in the end, I think they have all had good opportunities and good experiences leading the life that we have. And I'm very happy that all the kids are very attached to Switzerland, so they feel really Swiss. Even our youngest daughter, who has never lived in Switzerland, she was born abroad in Venezuela. But when we go home, she speaks the dialect, because in Switzerland we have dialects. And nobody recognizes that she is not from there, that she has never lived there. So
But was it hard to achieve this living away all the time?
not
Living
really.
away
I
from
mean,
home?
we just, my wife very much encouraged me to join diplomacy, and I asked her, but are you sure that you will agree with all these changes and move? And she says, I would be delighted do it. And so I felt encouraged. And
So
I also
she
felt
has
a
an
certain
adventurous spirit,
yes,
I guess.
exactly,
yes.
absolutely. Yeah. She loves traveling, and all our kids love traveling. Sometimes we don't know exactly who is where at the right, whether they are. Our son is in New York, our daughter in San Francisco, or somewhere in southern Italy, and so on. But nowadays with WhatsApp and other media, social media, it's very easy
Yes,
to keep
yes.
touch. in
So
touch
your
with
wife
each other.
supports you a lot. They say
Yes.
behind every great man there is a great woman.
Well, great man, I don't know, but great woman for sure.
So, what do your children study? What are they studying?
Our oldest daughter, she studies chemistry. She just came back from Berkeley, and she's now doing her starting her PhD in Zurich. She's still thinking whether to go into a job for 1 year or two and then do the PhD. So she's now back in Switzerland. Our son has started English philology, English and filmmaking at Zurich University. And our little daughter, she
She's in
still
high
has
school.
to make up. She's in high school. I mean, she has to make up her mind later what to study.
It's very nice. What was the most challenging thing for you about working in Armenia?
Oh, the most challenging. Really, it's difficult to answer this question because so many things come easy here. I mean, the society is so friendly, so welcoming. People, it's easy to make friends. They're very, very hospitable, and also the authorities. I mean, the government is very efficient in the sense that they're not formal. It's not a very hierarchical thing, and you're always welcome when you want to raise issues, questions. But challenging. Well, sometimes I have difficulties to accept certain traffic realities in the city traffic. You know? I mean, the Armenians they're not aggressive drivers. That's good.
They are
in
not?
No,
Okay.
in comparison with other countries. I
Yes.
Oh, really?
mean, overland traffic, not very many. I mean, it could be better, of course, but road accidents are not so much a problem.
Yes.
But it's more that it's more careless driving. You know, that
Yes.
many people they park their cars at the pedestrian crossing. I mean, in Switzerland, you would, if you don't go to prison because of that, but you would at least lose your driving
Yes,
license for a certain
definitely.
time if you would. And here it just passes like that. So that's sometimes this is challenging for me, and also especially when I think of the talent that Armenians have, and I'm sure this is a country that can have a great future, and but sometimes I see that society, you can see that there was no statehood for a long time. No? So you have to build your society, your mutual trust, and that's I think that's a challenge right now. But I've seen much progress only in the time that I'm here, so I think we can be optimistic.
Yes.
What
What about
kind of-
sorry,
yeah, go ahead.
punctuality? Is that an issue here? Do
No,
you
not
think?
at all. No, I mean, I have been hardened in other countries
Oh,
before
okay.
to Armenia. Maybe a Swiss from Switzerland who has never seen anything else would be thinking that there is an issue with punctuality, but for me, no. I mean, whenever I need to meet people, they are there, or they call me that they are on the way, and in 5 minutes they are there. So I've never had any problem.
You've been
with that.
lucky, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
the
because
Swiss,
they know that I'm Swiss. and,
so the
but-
Swiss are very punctual.
Yeah, Swiss
I
are very
mean,
punctual.
they make watches, so
Yes.
they should
Yeah,
be.
yeah. Right.
Are you wearing a watch right now?
No, I have
I was
my
going to ask.
iPhone.
Okay.
No need for watches. So,
Look, I should
Well-
not say that as a Swiss ambassador.
here, this is a neutral zone. You can say anything you want. Are there any interesting stories you could share with us about your experience working in Armenia? Maybe funny, weird, amusing?
Well, there was I have had also many friends and family visiting here, and once we were in Vajod Zor about 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, and we were in a wonderful place, very high up in the valley of Hermon. So it's not a very Yerehiz, not very known, and we were hiking, and high up in the mountains we met a group of Armenians, but then we saw that they were not Armenians from here, they were from Los Angeles. And when one gentleman knew that we were Swiss, he asked us, "Do you know Surse?" And we said, because that's where we are from. but it's a town which is not very known, especially abroad. Not even in Switzerland, everybody could tell you where Sursee is. And we said, how do you know about this?
Are you following me?
Yeah, have you been researching on us or eavesdropping and so on? And we said, no, I'm a big fan of Hans Küng, a Swiss theologist, who used to teach in Tübingen in Germany, and had great ideas, and so that was a big surprise for us, because we never would have expected that in the top of Vajot Zor somebody would know
Some guys
about
from
our
LA.
Coincidence, yeah. You were mentioning that through the 5 years that you have been living here, you've seen some progress. What kind of progress were you talking about?
Well, first of all, the city. I mean, many restaurants have opened, and I'm a wine lover, as you see. 2 years ago, this wine was not yet commercialized.
Yes.
And many others. I mean, every year you see new entrepreneurs coming on the market, and they are successful, and they have great ideas. They are also rediscovering a very old tradition that Armenia has. And also, well, I think that economic progress has been made, not very fast, not very quick, of course, but I think this is a feature that Armenia has, that it's not making steep and enormous progress from one year to the next, but once it has made one or two steps, it's usually not returning back. It's not going back to worse again. So I think this is a very encouraging. And we do economic analysis. We have also seen our trade with Armenia grow spectacularly. I mean, of course, it can change in the other direction again, but no, I think many things speak for a better future of Armenia.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'm sure a lot of people are listening right now. They're going, yes, yes.
So you mentioned that you like hiking, right?
Yes.
What kind of other pastimes have you acquired in Armenia?
Well, I'm a big reader,
Activities.
which is maybe a little bit boring for others.
Not for me.
Also for my family members, because I'm a lot absorbed in books, and that's not a very social habit. But yes, I'm a big reader. That's my big hobby, and also reading about the countries where I'm working and the societies that I live in. That's very interesting.
What book would you take with you to a deserted island?
Oh, yeah, good question. I think, well, I'm a fan of Stanisław Lem, Polish science fiction writer. He's best known for his novel Solaris, which was made into a movie by Tarkovsky and then a remake by Steven Soderbergh, with George Clooney in the main role about 10 years ago. But there is another novel from him which is called Powrót z Gwiazd in Polish, The Return from the Stars. And it's a novel where he has foreseen so many things that are almost reality nowadays.
Yeah.
And no, he was a great writer. I mean, this would be probably the book that I would take.
Okay, so you would take something that you already love and not
Yes.
something new.
No, because I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a risk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's a big risk.
And what is the book that you're reading right now, or the last book that you read?
Oh, right now I'm reading Orientalism by Edward Said, a Palestinian intellectual who is writing in his book about how the West represents the Orient. I mean, the idea that the West has about the Orient, and it's mainly Arabic countries. So
Interesting.
It's a book, a very interesting book, fascinating. And another one is about, it's a big, great Swiss journalist who has covered the Middle East, and it's his memoir about all the countries of the Middle East.
So most of the books that you read are politically based books.
Yes,
or-
yeah. I mean, I'm also reading a science fiction novel right now, Seven Eves. It was one of the New York Times bestsellers. Yeah, great science fiction story. But I'm a little bit distracted now from that by my political readings that I'm doing right now.
Are they must reads or just
Well, not
you enjoy it?
nobody imposes me this
Well, for
readings.
your own
That's
self.
a nice thing in my profession. But my next posting will be in that region, so that's why
Yeah.
I'm
There's
now
an
preparing
interest.
myself, and that's also a nice thing of diplomacy, because as sad it can be to leave a country like Armenia, but you have always something ahead of you, and
Yes.
you're preparing yourself.
New place
and
to
course.
discover.
yeah, so that's it.
Could you tell us where you would be posted? Or
Yes, I will be ambassador in Amman, in Jordan,
Jordan.
and I will also be ambassador to Iraq, not based in Baghdad, because that's still a little bit
Yeah.
of an issue of security, but I will be quite regularly also traveling to Iraq, and I'm very glad of that about that, because I love this region, and I count Armenia also as
So
one of
you're
the
still
countries.
close.
Yes, I will
Yes.
be close. I mean, if we think that Iraqi northern border is about 400 kilometers, 300 miles from here.
We'll hope
It's
to see
reassuring.
you during
Yes.
some
Well,
vacations.
as I
maybe?
said, I think
Holiday
Armenia will
breaks.
be one of the countries where I will like to return, for sure.
That is very nice. But living in Armenia, do you ever feel homesick?
Not really. When I was first for a longer time abroad, when I was a student in Poland, I never felt homesickness. And when I went back to Switzerland for the first time, and I saw these green countries, beautiful nature, and all the people that I had been missing, I thought, how could I not feel homesick? It was a strange thing that I only discovered the possibility of homesickness when I was back.
Oh, wow.
And this has since then remained with me like that. And I think for a diplomat, it's a very good thing. Because
Yes.
You
I
adapt.
mean, you have like Switzerland. I have Switzerland in me. I have Switzerland in my office, because we are representing Switzerland. And I know that God willing, I will be going back after my retirement. And that's a nice perspective.
Did this job make you more flexible? More.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Because if you have rigid mindsets, you cannot be a diplomat. I think you have to be flexible, and if you are not flexible at the beginning, you have to learn to be flexible.
Yes.
Let's speak about your phobias.
Phobias.
Yeah. Do you have any?
Ooh,
You're living the country. You can speak about
yes.
it. Feel free to share.
What is my phobia? My phobia is a little bit about noisy environments. When I have, for example, discotheques, or sometimes
Clubs.
also weddings can be very noisy.
Noise
Yeah,
pollution.
especially
or
Armenian
restaurants, like these pandoks, where you have very
Yeah.
beautiful music, but it's very noisy. That I
Very
feel
loud.
like I'm not a smoker, but I join the smokers a lot when when I'm at a wedding.
So noise pollution.
Yes.
That's the
That's,
phobia.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah, we have that here. A lot of that.
Sure, sure.
Okay, what
What-
about
Yeah, go ahead.
go?
And I was like, I was going to continue the subject of noisy and smoky places. What else do you dislike about Armenia? Or things that you
Ooh.
would want to change?
Well, I already talked about it a little bit. It's not a dislike, because it doesn't really concern me, but it's a little bit that I care very much for this country, and sometimes I think that people should be more trusting each other,
Yeah.
and by that building a civil society, in the sense that, well, one example: if you have a multi-apartment building, nobody thinks he or she should take care of the stairway. And sometimes you enter a building, it's not very clean, very nice, and you say, my God. And then you enter the apartment where
Yes.
you were invited, and everything is wonderful, no? But couldn't they, take care a little bit of the outside space as they do inside? I know what the problem is, because, I mean, if somebody starts doing it, the other will use it, but maybe not contribute to it as well.
Right.
So they don't trust each other yet, in the sense that, and we in Switzerland, we have that very, very much. I mean, the space around the house looks at least as neat as the house inside. And that's why because people had all the time to trust each other and learn to trust each other and learn to work together without somebody telling them so, without law even telling them that you must
very
do
important.
this.
Without somebody telling you.
But also here, I mean, I see
agree.
encouraging signs. I think it's only a question of giving a little bit more time to Armenia, and it will develop into that. I'm sure.
Hopefully, yes. Okay, we spoke about phobias. What about any secret talents?
Da da da.
I think there are really no secret talents unless the ability of reading from 8 o'clock in the morning until midnight.
That could be a
with
talent.
just a
We
few
can count that
interruptions
as
for
a
eating and drinking. No, that's no. I mean, I like languages a lot. I speak some of them.
Many of
some
them.
better, some
I
less.
would say most of them.
We read the bio.
Okay. So maybe I have. I used to have, because with age it's not helping, but I used to have some talent for languages. Yes.
So could you mention them on
Well,
air for
I
the
had-
listeners?
I was lucky enough to have 3 languages in my family: German, Italian, and French, because my parents were speaking French with each other. And then I learned Latin and Greek at school. That was, but that's not spoken languages. Afterwards, Polish and Polish. I'm especially proud of that because I mastered it quite well when I was a student. People didn't recognize that I was not from there. And then Russian, which was a second language at university. And when I met my wife, we are speaking Italian to each other. But in order to be able to speak with her family, I had to learn Spanish, and that went quite natural. Well, yeah. So
Wow.
there are a few languages
Left.
gathered together. Yes.
There are a few languages left that Mr. Ambassador doesn't speak.
I think that you will kind of master the Arabic
Oh,
as well, because
Inshallah.
yes,
The base is there.
yes, because he will be there for the next
well, I
few
think
years.
Arabic is a very welcoming language, and people are used to foreigners wanting to learn it, because that's also important.
Yes, but it is a very difficult
Difficult,
language.
yes. Yeah,
Very.
for sure.
I've learned the language after I was 22.
Ah, yeah.
It was difficult. Yes.
What would you change about yourself?
I would learn electric guitar.
Oh.
This is something
There's the
that
desired talent.
I'm very,
Go.
I'm very angry at myself that I never tried to learn playing guitar very well, because I'm a big fan of music, and I think it would be a very nice distraction also.
Yes.
So you
a
enjoy
good way of
music.
using your energy,
And I think
improvising
it's
guitar
never
solos.
too late.
Oh, my son says the same, because he's a
Yeah.
very good guitar player.
Oh,
but,
wow.
he says it's never too late.
Ah,
Who
you should
knows?
ask him to teach you.
Yeah, well,
Will he?
if we have the
Full-time.
opportunity to see each other more.
To
That's
see-
what I was
to
going
see
to say. So music, what kind of music do you enjoy listening to?
Well, all kinds of music. I love classical music, so that's also very nice. Also something
Yes.
which makes me very much feel at home here in Armenia, because the concerts that you have here are really world quality, world standard. And but I also love rock music and many styles, jazz as well. Yeah, so I have grown up with rock music. That's for sure. I mean, Led Zeppelin, and later the new wave, Clash, yeah, many.
And you should invite
Yes.
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin
Lucas
is one of my
Ah,
favorites.
really?
to one of your concerts before he
Definitely.
leaves Armenia.
Definitely.
Oh yes.
Okay, what about foods? Do you like preparing? Do you enjoy the...
I enjoy eating, but
Okay.
I'm not a cook, not at all. Sometimes I used in the past, and my wife always tells me that you used to do a big bird for New Year. This was a
Okay.
little bit my contribution, but even that, because she cooks so well, why should I? And we are not made for working with each other in the same kitchen.
Okay.
It's either me or either.
Do you have a favorite dish, Armenia?
Oh, Armenian dish.
Yes.
I like harissa very much, and all kinds of what you have is sambuk, the
Eggplant.
the eggplant. Yeah, when it's cooked in oil and with garlic.
Okay.
It's really delicious. There are many things. I mean, also the quality of the meat of fish is very good in Armenia.
The ishkhan.
Ishkhan, yes.
Is there something that...
Karmarahait.
Yes.
Karmarahait,
Yeah,
yes,
Karmarahait,
yes.
yeah.
Mr. Gasser, is there something that you would never forgive?
Well, that I would never forgive in a person.
Yeah, just
Well,
in general.
Betrayal. I mean, somebody who is not, who is abusing of my confidence, of my trust. That's something. But I must say, touch wood. It has happened
Knock
very,
the wood.
very rarely too.
Okay.
What is your most valued trait about Armenian?
Valued.
Trait about Armenians?
It's their ability to, their curiosity. I love curious people, and I've worked in countries, unfortunately, where people were not curious at all. It was kind of impolite to be, or not in their culture to be
I
curious.
understand.
And then it can be so boring. I mean, you can present the best things of your country, but if nobody takes notice of it. And here in Armenia, it's completely different. People want to know. They are curious.
Almost everything.
Yes, of course. And that's their
Sometimes
strength.
it's too
also.
much.
That's their strength.
The constructive curiosity.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
talking about the constructive
Yeah, exactly.
curiosity. Because there is that other kind. They say curiosity
Yes,
killed
I
the
mean,
cat. So
Of course. Yeah. I mean, gossip and so on. Even gossip can be interesting.
It can be productive,
Yes.
sometimes useful.
yes. Can you name 5 things you love about Armenia?
Harissa, I know one thing.
Yeah, well, the food in general. The women are absolutely fabulously beautiful and charming. So that, and also what I said about the people in general,
Thank you.
curiosity, stimulation, being stimulating. So that's 3. The landscape, and the history. I mean, for a diplomat being in a country which has a rich history, it's always much more interesting than if there is an absence of history. So because you have one more dimension that you can dig deep into the history.
And there's one thing that we sometimes dislike that just interrupts us is the advertisement.
You do that often, don't you?
Well, that's not specifically Armenian, huh?
Yeah, this is an international thing. Stay tuned. This is Homesick at Home. We're here for another 20 minutes, and our guest is interesting, amazing, and multi-geographical, Mr. Gasser. Steven's gone. Rafi's gone. Rena, what am I gonna do?
Well, dear, that's the way men are. Maybe you should try a woman.
What? Rena, kezi çeraf.
Ina, hangizdatsi. I meant as a co-host.
Vay. Homesick at home.
This is how we do it. It's Friday night.
It's Friday night, and this was thankfully a very short break. We're back in our studio enjoying our conversations, wine, and of course, the presence of our lovely guest. Now, maybe it's time to ask a question for our guest. We always have this question. Do you have any questions to us or our
my
show?
turn to.
Yeah.
Well, I was very intrigued about the name of this Radio Van, and knowing that it has been here since 1968. So, can you tell us
The story.
how could it be possible during the Soviet Union to name a radio van?
Of course, all the details of this story could be perfectly provided by our director and the owner, Shushanik Arefshatian. Hello, Shushanik. But I know the story how she decided to make it, to name it Van. She and her friend were pondering and thinking about the name, because this was a story, a long story, and she dreamed to have a radio station. And actually, they started with a very, very small room. It used to be on the 8th floor, I think, and next year we will be celebrating the 20th anniversary of Radio Van. So as soon as it already happened that they were going to open the radio station, they were thinking what to name it. And then she that night, when she slept, she saw a dream that I think somebody came to her, or she just got this message that you have to name it Van, Radio Van. And then she woke up and it was there.
Nice story.
So yeah, this
From a
is a
dream.
real story, yeah. So she decided Radio Van, nothing else, no other options. And since then, the Ren, remember the legend of Achtamar? And since then, the island was called Achtamar. Since then, the station was called Radio Van.
Oh. Well, I've recently joined Radio Van. It's been a few months now, since November, I think. Beginning of November.
Yeah, we had a little break and then
Yes.
we came back.
But I just love this team that we have here, and the direction that it has. That is very important.
We have a family here.
Yes. Yes.
I could see. I can very well understand. It's my first day at Radio Van. It's not my first hour, because there was a little. We understood that we would have to
That's
be
right.
here at 9 o'clock, but in the
AM.
morning.
Yeah.
So this morning we turned up, and there were 3 guys here, very friendly, but they were a little bit
Surprised.
thinking, what?
Yeah, because
what is the
it's
ambassador
always
doing here this
morned,
morning?
beforehand that we have guests. I'm like, what is going on?
And we were immediately invited to a coffee. I mean, they were busy. Huh? They had their own jobs and stuff to do. But they served us a coffee, and they said, "Yeah, Ina and Rena will be here at 9 o'clock tonight."
Good. Thank you. We have to tell them thank you right here on air. Tima, Danik. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, they covered for us. I'd like to ask a question about Swiss people and Armenians, the Swiss and Armenians. Are there some similarities, if any, between them?
Yes, I mean, curiosity is
Okay.
similarity. They really want to know. They want to find out if they don't know about things, and I think it's maybe also a trait of mountain people that because you probably have to know more than others, because there
To
are so many
survive.
hazards.
Yes.
Things can go wrong if the weather turns
That's right.
bad, if you're far away in the mountain. There are hazards, there are wild animals, and so I think this is a trait that we share, and that is common to both of our people.
Anything else, or that's about it?
Well, you will about commonalities that
Yes.
we have, right? Maybe it's not so known for Switzerland, but we, at least the part where I'm from, central Switzerland, we have a very strong family
Bonds.
bonds. The family my father, there were 9 brothers and sisters, and
Wow.
with my cousins, we are
That's
34
a big
cousins.
family.
On that side, we meet regularly. I'm expecting now the visit of 2 of them in April. We will go to Mehri, and they will be here for the first time.
Oh,
And I
amazing.
just came
All
back
of
from
the-
Switzerland, where I was staying with another cousin of these 34. So it's
34 cousins
very-
on your father's
This
side.
is
on my
like
father's
the
side. On my
real-
mother's side, on the Italian side, we are 6. So much less, but also there.
This
we're
is
very
the real
strong. We're very
treasures.
strong
I
families,
think
yeah.
this is like the strength, the power of.
Wow, I love that.
I mean, family can be sometimes also a little bit oppressive, and I mean there are expectations,
Yes.
and you have pressure from all sides, from the aunts, from the uncles, from the parents, of course, and so on. You're never left alone. But I mean, in other situations, you find out how good it is not to be left alone
Yes.
on your own.
Yes, so true. I mean, I thought I had a lot of cousins. No.
He came and changed everything. Tonight on Radio 1.
I mean, I'm an only child, but I have 17 cousins. I was kind of like, wow, that's
Yeah, I'm an only child too.
34. Wow. That's beautiful. Okay, should we talk about future plans? We know that you will be leaving Armenia soon, being posted in Jordan. But do you have any other plans other than work? We're not talking about work.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're going to do it again, aren't
Yes.
you?
For the last
She's
time,
going
I
to do it
promise.
again.
For the, you mean plans? For,
The last break.
She's going to take another break and force us to.
yeah, no, that's
10
good, so I have more time to
yeah,
think.
Yeah, we have time to think. A short break. Stay tuned. This is Homesick at Home.
Ina. Yes, Rena. I feel homesick. You want to talk about it? This Friday? Every Friday on Radio 1. Homesick at home. Homesick at home.
Yes, Homesick at Home. We are back. It's 52 past the hour. We only have 8 minutes left, unfortunately. And we are here with our guest tonight, Mr. Lukas Gasser, the ambassador of Switzerland. Okay, I was asking a question before the break. I asked, knowing that you will be posted in Jordan soon, what plans do you have other than work? We are not talking about work.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because by that question, I realize how much I am conditioned by these changes, of countries, by a work, a job, which is marvelous. I very love my work. And it's a work which brings along all the rest of your life. I mean, for the next 4 or 5 years. So it's difficult to make plans on the long term. What I know is that I want to go back to Switzerland after work. I will probably not return to the headquarters for any functions, but one never knows. So most probably I will stay for a few more postings abroad and then go into retirement. I have a house in Switzerland which I rent now, and I'm looking very much forward to leaving that house myself.
Finally.
In the future, finally. I have also good friends who are around, and one of the last times that I visited them, we were sitting in a cafe at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was there for my house because I had to see something, and we planned already. One friend said, let's meet at 12 o'clock for a beer, and then another one, yes, and then we go to my place for lunch, and then we made plans for the afternoon and for the evening, and then one friend says, this is what our life as after retirement will look like. I was like, wow. So I mean, there is not, I mean, apart from family, apart from seeing the kids growing up and studying, marrying, hopefully soon, and finding their jobs, and there is not much planning that we are actually doing, I must say.
That's
So it will be pretty much like New Year holidays in Armenia when you go everywhere,
Yeah.
every half hour. If you knew somehow that this was the last time you're in Armenia, and this is the last time you're interacting with Armenian people, for instance.
Okay. Hopefully not.
Yeah, but
Touch wood.
but what if? What would be your message? What would you say?
Don't dream, work hard, trust each other more, but continue on the way that you are already embarking, because your future this way will look great.
And
That would
stay
be my-
curious.
Write down.
Stay curious, yes,
Stay
absolutely.
curious.
Don't lose that, yeah.
We were very much curious tonight, Ina and I, because we asked you a lot of
Yeah,
questions. I hope that satisfied you in
Absolutely,
some
that's-
way.
That's what stimulates me. And,
Too many questions.
whenever Armenians tell me sorry, I'm asking too much. I'm curious. I love curious people.
That's the first time, actually, I've heard someone say they love curious people. But I understand it
Healthy
because, yes,
curiosity.
the constructive curiosity is very important. Yes, very true.
Right.
Do you have favorite quotes
Ah,
that you would like
well,
to share
there's
with
one
us?
line from Shakespeare,
Shakespeare.
Julius
Okay.
Caesar.
Okay.
Cowards die 1,000 times, the valiant but once.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite quotes.
So you
Or
do.
another one, but that's a quote from the Bible. I think that I have a big esteem and one of my most role models. I mean, not that I want to become one, but one of the most fascinating personalities in history, recent history for me, was Pope John Paul II, and he used to say in times of hopelessness to his people in Poland during the communism, he said, "Nie łękajcie się," that means have no fear. So both quotes have to do, and that's Christ's words basically. Now that he says, he quoted Christ, said, "Nie łękajcie się." So both quotes have to do with fear. I mean, say, don't. There
So
is
could
nothing
that
to-
be
to
your
despair
motto,
about.
maybe?
Excuse
Your
me?
motto
Yeah.
in life?
Nie
Have
łękajcie
no
się.
fear?
Yeah. Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid.
Well, first we have to define fear,
Yes,
and then
of course. Yeah.
and move on. You know.
Yes, actually, I mean, with my daughter, 14-year-old daughter, we're talking a lot about these subjects these days, and I mean, fear has also a positive role to play. It has evolved in not
Yes.
only the humans, but all the animals, developed animals, feel
Yeah.
kind of fear. I mean, it's also self-preservation.
Of course.
If you're not afraid, if you're just a daredevil, I mean, there is not much chance of survival. for you.
Yeah,
So
that's
There
fear has
won't be
also
many
positive
left.
side, but fear is bad when it takes away hope. I
Of
think
course. Yes,
that's
and
when fear is bad.
sometimes when it becomes a comfort zone, that is the
Exactly,
most dangerous.
Yeah.
Dear listeners of Radio Van, we're becoming very philosophical here. and, and I think that's maybe wine as well, speaking in but
Well, I'm not having one, but I love the way.
but you're breathing the air here
that's
in the
true.
studio. But unfortunately, and as always, this past 1 hour flew by really fast, even with the breaks and everything. And would like to thank you one more time, Mr. Gasser, for being here tonight with us.
Thank
Hope
you
you-
for this most pleasant hour. I really enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed this curiosity attack
It was our pleasure.
and our chat. And let's end this show with just wishing everybody a great weekend, a great Friday night. Stay safe, and of course,
Stay curious.
stay curious.
Stay curious.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.